Hello. Good evening. How are you guys doing? Everyone doing all right? How is life? Delta, hey, hey, hey. Hey, man. Good to see you. Finn and KM also here. Nice. Nice. I mean, price action's good, huh? For the first time in a while. We have good things to talk about. I mean, at least price is up, and it kind of looks like it's gonna actually break out. So maybe this is the time. This is the stream before it goes. I'm down for it. I am down for it. Anyway, before we start the show, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring it. Really appreciate their support. Their links are in the description below. XRP phase 3. I mean, I would say phase 2, man. It's had a leg, it needs the second one. What up, Doug? Been a long minute since I'm catching you live. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Hey, I know who's hyped for ETH. I mean, it hasn't moved enough to be super hyped about it, but I mean, it's starting to look quite good, huh? You finally ran the marathon? Yeah. Wanted to do it before and always got something in the way. Even this time I got a lot of things in the way. I mean, birth of second child and everything. No sleep, barely any training, but went all right, all things considered. Anyway, let's quickly run through everything and then see where we're at. Monthly time frame on Bitcoin still excellent. I generally think like high time frame, if you want to be bearish below 95k. If that doesn't go, don't really see a point of being bearish, especially with the whole corporate strategies that you see, like Bitcoin corporate strategies that you see popping up everywhere. That seems like a Ponzi that is hard to stop. So like that, like both of those confluences just make me higher time frame bullish. It's the corporate strategies that you have where basically a bunch of corporations buy Bitcoin, put it on the balance sheet, put it wherever the fuck they want to, oftentimes with debt. That makes me bearish longer term, but short term, that's a good thing to me. I smell a good Ponzi. I add. I don't shy away from the Ponzi. At least when it's Bitcoin. When it's altcoins, I struggle sometimes. If it's too blatantly, obviously a scam. But in this case, it's just a Ponzi, not necessarily an insider scam. So that's a little bit better. Anyway, monthly good, weekly good. We did have that false breakdown. That was mainly headline driven. So I'm ignoring it. If we lose 105k again, I think that'd be a sign that maybe this thing is slowing down and we need to range even more than we already have. But until that happens, it's also a very bullish time frame. So you have the monthly and the weekly quite bullish. The weekly just closed a new high last week. I mean, what's there not to like, really? And then on the daily time frame, we have resistance. We talked about this last week when we're trading here on Wednesday, and I was like, yeah, this is resistance, but I mean, it's been tested plenty of times. I'm not sure if it's gonna hold again or do much. So far it's been holding, but it's not been doing much, right? We haven't been rejected yet, and I think if it goes, we'll get a nice move. So I'm generally all time frames, even though the dailies is like right at resistance, I'm leaning bullish, and I'm just generally bullish. That can obviously change. I mean, there's a few invalidations. On the daily, 100k would be bad. On the weekly, sub 105 would be bad, like I said, and on the monthly, sub 95 would be bad. So earliest warning sign would be the weekly, and that could snowball into the other time frames, but for now, I'll just assume it's bullish. Do you only use logarithmic charts or you sometimes use linear? I usually use logarithmic just because in crypto it just makes more sense. Otherwise, past price action is just so tiny you cannot really look at it. And I don't really draw diagonals, so it doesn't really make a difference charting wise. If you draw a lot of diagonals, you have to think about whether you want to use log or not. But if you don't, it doesn't really matter too much. It's just a convenience thing at that point. I think I finally realized why you stopped trading futures in Germany. You can't deduct any losses from spot wins. What the fuck? Is there any solution to this? I mean, it's even worse than what you just said. I mean, I do trade futures from time to time nowadays because that's not even that bad. It used to be the case that you couldn't even deduct losses from your winnings in futures, as in like you made like 200k, you lost 150. You couldn't deduct the 150k, so you would have to pay 200k on like taxes on the 200k, which would be like in Germany taxes are quite high, so calculated with like 40%. So you would have to pay, well, let's say 50 just for ease of math. And you would have to pay 100k in taxes even though you only made 50. So that used to be the case. It's not the case anymore. But that's why I actively stopped. And yeah, I mean, nowadays I just trade futures very, very rarely. I haven't run into the problem of having a year where I had losses on futures, but I will tell you once I do. Actually, I've literally not thought about that for a second yet. But like I said, it's not my main trading thing anymore anyway. So yeah, that's Bitcoin. Looks good. Where do you live right now? Still Germany? Yeah, for now. Not for long anymore, but for now. Yeah, I lost more in futures than I made in spot. Nightmare. Yeah, and the reason why I find this kind of ruling or like this kind of way of looking at it so stupid is because it basically makes you have to try to make it back by trading more futures, which is really fucking stupid. Because you're like, I lost, so maybe I can like just make a bunch. But it's the worst way to do it. Aren't you moving now anyways? Yeah, I am. Can you go over example of how you decided log or not for trend lines? No, I'm not a trend line kind of guy. You will have to figure that out yourself. I just use the one that is better. Usually I try to do log because I like log better, but yeah. Is it coincidence ETH started pumping and Don came on live? Yes. How was the midlife crisis marathon? Was all right. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend it was pleasant, but was all right. Wasn't slow, wasn't fast. I mean, my first one anyway, so I was like, I'm gonna take it easy. Didn't stop once, so that's more than I would want it. So like I ran the entire way through, which is all I wanted. And then the time was decent as well, so. Under 5 hours? Yes. Finally some ongoing ETH strength. It's been a while. Yeah, I mean, it's just nice. We'll talk about ETH. ETHUSD. The monthly is really good. Same story as Bitcoin. Like as long as you hold 2.2K, I don't really see a reason to be bearish. We dipped into support, we bounced, and yeah, I mean, it's just good. And the next resistance would be 3.8K. And I think that's a shit resistance. Same story as Bitcoin on the daily. Too many tests. So like to me, like if you like ETH, you basically have a hard stop here, soft stop with a close below here, and the target of new all-time highs, so above 5K. I think that's a pretty decent trade. And that's kind of like how I look at it. My entry is not the best, but which makes for it's this one, right? Yeah, it's basically, you can draw it out. It's basically this kind of trade that I have going on ETH at this moment, and maybe even like a little bit higher. Like that's the kind of trade that I'm currently having on ETH. I think my average is actually a little bit better than this. And I'm gonna move my invalidation up. And like I said, if we close below 2.2, I actually reconsider the position and get out with a slight loss. But yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. It seems really good. It's a range reclaim. Now that we're trading at the range lows again, a little bit higher than the range lows, I'd expect range highs. So that would be that trade. I think that's still a really decent trade, like something like this. Even though you look at the risk to reward and you're like, not that great, but I think the chances of this playing out are much higher than the chances of it not playing out. Something that you have to always consider when you slap on the risk to reward tools. Like people are like, oh yeah, I need to have like a risk to reward of 10. And I'm like, but how likely is that trade to play out then? And the answer is very unlikely. And then you get chopped out, right? And I actually don't mind one-to-one trades. So your risk is the same as your reward if it's a high probability setup. And I think this is quite decent setup. And the fact that I am aiming for like a range breakout, and then depending on how it goes, like anywhere between 6 and like 10K, if it actually goes, just makes the trade so much more interesting. But I mean, like I say, like I always say, I mean, just because I think something is gonna happen doesn't mean it has to happen. I just like the trade. Nice. How much training did you need to do? Were you already in shape? I mean, I couldn't really train. I mean, if you have two babies in the house, one newborn, and you barely get any sleep, I couldn't really train much. But I did train like 2 or 3 months a little bit. So I would like to do it again and then properly train and then see how fast I get. So that's kind of how I look at it. Still targeting 6 to 7K, yeah, somewhere around there, depending on how good it goes. Where's Cred again? Yeah, I mean, Cred's just, if I don't bully him and I haven't had the time, he doesn't do the shows, which is really annoying. It's double the work. I might as well just do the Monday shows as well, just because it's more work to bully Cred into doing it than it is to do them myself. But we'll see how it goes. Looks like terrorists don't do much anymore. Yeah, I think basically like one, like taco Trump, right? Like Trump always chickens out. Everyone knows it now. I don't think anyone takes it really serious, like what the stuff that he's saying, because they know the moment it gets bad, he chickens out. And two, he's also losing a lot of influence, and like a lot of the stuff that he's been doing is being questioned, and people, I think, rightfully assume that he's not going to be able to just do wild shit as much anymore as he has been. So like the headlines from Trump, I think, are going to lose more and more relevance as he's kind of trying to extract as much as he can by, like, he's trying to get as much low time frame volatility as possible, and I think the markets are kind of getting glued in on like to that fact. So unless he does something really crazy, nothing really happens. We all can bully him, yeah. I mean, if you wanna see content from him, you need to add him on Twitter and be like, yo, dude, you missed Monday. Do it. Did you enter leverage long in ETH on the last dip? No, I just hold my positions. Could you please do CryptoCap Sol on TradingView when you're going over Sol later? No, I'm not interested. Sorry, bro. Like you can do that with any coin. It's not that interesting. Like you can clearly see that Solana's underperforming. I'm guessing that's what you want to kind of talk about. But you can just do this if you really want to see. Like this is Solana versus ETH. So you don't need to do anything fancy. You can just compare Solana to ETH or Solana to anything else, and you can see that it's underperforming recently. It's not too interesting though. But yeah, ETH basically looks good on the monthly. I gave you the kind of trade idea there. On the weekly time frame also looks quite decent. No, that's not capturing inflation. Yeah, but still, I mean, for an investor, it doesn't really matter. As long as the price goes down or up, you're getting wrecked. As a trader, like if you care about like the investing side of things and you're like, oh, there's so and so much inflation, I mean that's a different story. But that's not what I'm here for. Like if you take investment advice from me, you are foolish. If you take trading advice, probably too. But I mean, investment advice not really my forte. I made my money trading, not investing. But anyway, ETH USD on the weekly time frame is pushing again in that same resistance. Front run support, which I like. You guys know that I'm a sucker for front running supports. That means strength to me. It's perfect. That kind of dip was perfect. Didn't reach support. No one that wanted to buy got to buy. Have to chase higher. Back into that resistance that we've tested a million times. You saw what I like my chart on the monthly, where it's like a range reclaim. On the weekly, it's not yet. On the weekly, it needs to reclaim 2.9K. We're pretty close. It's just $200 away. And if it reclaims that, I think it's gonna teleport quite quickly towards the range high. So range low here, range high here. We break this confluence of resistances. So between 2.9 and this kind of box, like this is kind of the resistance. It's the last significant resistance that I have. I don't even think 4K is that important. This is where it is decided whether ETH runs or not, in my opinion. And the more often we test it, the more likely it is to break out. So I'm bullish on this. Even though it is at resistance, I take solace in the fact that on the monthly we don't have any resistance. We reclaim the range, so I can just cope and be like, hey, you just need to zoom out. We're actually playing on the monthly, not on the weekly. And then once the weekly flips bullish, I'll be like, now we have the monthly and the weekly. But yeah, I like it. It's usually I hate counter trading the weekly time frame, and this is clearly resistance. But even if I only had the weekly time frame, and if I was looking for shorts, I wouldn't like this, just because of how many tests we've had here and how close we are to just teleporting upwards. It's a very risky short. I wouldn't take it. So yeah, it's nice to be finally above water for once. We'll see how long that lasts. But I also like the daily time frame. It's also at resistance, but basically what we did on the daily is we had a false breakout to the upside, followed by a false break down, and then just walked up. So that's a good thing. Basically both sides got wrecked, and now it's kind of continuing in the way that it has been going. On the ETH PTC front, finally some, like on the monthly, it's a little bit worrisome. Like that's not really that good. The good thing, the only good thing that you have is that there was a parabola to the downside, and I think I would argue that is broken. But where it starts getting nice is on the weekly time frame. We had a false breakdown on that like a couple of weeks ago. Closed back a little bit above it last week, and are now starting to run again. And on the weekly time frame, you can see the parabola break quite nicely, where like that is quite aggressive. Like the selling started getting more intense as it went, and I think that was basically full-blown capitulation. Short term, I doubt like even if it's not going to be good price action, I would think and I don't think this is going to happen, but Even if it was bad price action, I think we'd be stuck here for like 6 months in a range. I don't think we're going to make new lows and continue downwards in the next 6 months. I'd be shocked. So I like what I'm seeing. This is green now. It's not resistance anymore. It's support. We have monthly on our side on the ETHUSD front. The weekly not quite there yet. The daily time frame not quite there yet, but same story as Bitcoin. Tested the resistance a million times. I wouldn't want to bet on short. If I had to make a bet here, even though it is smack dab in the middle of resistance, I would long. But the good thing is I don't have to. I'm already making the bets, so I don't have to take any fresh bets. I can just chill. Fair, just think including inflation gives a different picture on high time frames. Obviously irrelevant for lower time frame trades. Yeah, I mean Solana is generally, and a lot of coins in crypto are very inflationary. It's something that you do have to take into consideration when you trade lower, like higher time frames. But higher time frame trades are usually investments in crypto. Like if you hold anything for 6 months, plus it's usually like an investment rather than a trade. And then you have to think about it a little bit differently. Why is there no resistance ETHUSD on the monthly? Are you talking, you wanna kind of include this? I mean, that's fair. Like I think that's fair. Like having this as resistance. Whenever I have, and this is something that I just personally do, but whenever, like, let's say I have range here, right? And we had like a move up, and then we had a little bit of like consolidation here, and then we went into the range. Ignore that this went back in time, right? Just pretend this makes sense. And then you could, in theory, draw like support here because there was consolidation before it went into the range. But I usually tend to ignore supports or resistances that are too close to each other. And in this case, the fact that we reclaimed the old range here is more important to me than that we had like a little bit of a consolidation in here. But I do admit that like this is also quite clean as resistance. I just don't like it because it is so close to that signal that we have down here. But that is completely something that you have to like, where you have to just make a call. Either you like the resistance or you don't. And I can understand both sides. Just from personal experience, I see something like this, I usually tend to ignore it. And you do, like people are gonna, like I see a lot of people that have charts that look like this with 50,000 resistances, right? And then I'm always wondering like how do they actually trade? Because then you just sell every 1 or 2% of a move. So I only have the resistances that I find are relevant or like the most relevant, and only the supports that I think are the most relevant. And I find this one more relevant than that one. Otherwise, I would have it the opposite way. Then I wouldn't have this, and I would have it up here, and I would argue that it's resistance. And I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't like it as much. And maybe I'm biased with my ETH bags. What's up, Donnie? Do you like MSTR chart? I know you hate Sailor, but what about the TA? I mean, I don't hate Sailor. He's making me money. I think he's either delusional or like just straight up grifting people into something that they really shouldn't be doing. But the chart's decent. Yeah, chart's decent. That was a drop, holy shit. 60%. Bitcoin went down by 30%. But yeah, decent chart now. But I don't really care. I generally think this stuff is gonna go up with Bitcoin until it doesn't, and then it's just gonna implode, and it's really hard to time. And I'd rather just trade Bitcoin. I'd rather, like, if I wanted to lever up on top of trading Bitcoin, I'd just lever up trading Bitcoin rather than buying stuff like MicroStrategy. I think MicroStrategy is probably the best one to buy out of all of the corporate strategy trades. Not crypto related, but this year I fumbled hard by investing in the S&P instead of the DAX. I'm a bit down in euro because of FX. Should I make the switch, or has the dollar bottomed in your opinion? We can look at the dollar, but I'm not an expert in this kind of stuff. Generally, hilarious move on the euro dollar front. I never know if I should be happy or not, because I have a bunch of euro, but also like all of my crypto investments are measured against the dollar. So whenever the dollar does this like poorly, I'm like, I look at the Bitcoin USD chart and that looks great, and I look at Bitcoin euro and I'm like, that looks much worse, especially on the lower time frames. Like, look at that. You have this, that, and you have the highs here. So basically, like, it's like this Bitcoin euro, and then the Bitcoin USD chart is just like, you have a high, you go like this, and then you push into the same thing. Very different stories that are being told here. But just generally, I would assume, like, I generally think there's a good chance that this pulls back a bunch, euro versus the dollar. But I also think it's probably going to continue higher. But I'm not an FX guy. I look at this chart and I'm like, this is just a bullish chart. You had a range breakdown, you had a retest, you bounced. Looks quite good. It's getting closer to the range high, but yeah. Like I said, I'm not a FX guy. And the DAX, obviously, giga chatting. The S&P is also quite strong, but in comparison to the DAX, not as strong. So America is losing on that front, but maybe they're gonna go back. Like, longer term, the S&P has always been quite a bit better. So we'll see if that continues or not. I generally stay away from most things America now, but that's just personal preference. Not really market related. Like I said, I'm not the expert in anything but crypto, and even in crypto I wouldn't call myself an expert. So to answer your question, I don't fucking know. Don't make decisions based on my opinion on something that I'm not very proficient in. But yeah, that's that. We talked about ETH. Like I said, I really like that. And then we look at XRP, and I really like that. That's a really, like, I mean, that's just a really bullish chart. Let's go to the higher time frames. Come on, Coinbase. No one wants you here. It's better. A little bit more history. And I mean, did I hide? Yeah. Beautiful. And yeah, I generally still think we're kind of like in a consolidation that's very similar to what we had in 2017. Sentiment feels very similar, and price action feels very similar. And I think if it pushes a little bit higher, there's a good chance that we just run same way we did back then. I could be wrong though. I'm in this from 0.5 to 0.6. So I have quite the luxurious position. Doesn't mean you have to buy here at 2.4. Also doesn't mean it's a bad trade at 2.4, but generally that's just how it is. I bought this quite low into this green candle basically, and got lucky, and then now I think it's probably gonna have a second leg, just like this one. But I could be wrong. That's the monthly chart. Like I said, I mean, just generally, like, look at this, bullish to me. You have a massive up candle into just straight up sideways. Doesn't really get much better than that. And on the XRP BTC front is also starting to kind of like slow the descent after having had like a massive breakout. It's also not that bad. And then when you go to the lower time frames, you have just the range. And as long as that range is maintained, I'm gonna remain bullish. And if we start losing it close below like 1.9 again, I think I might reconsider. But until then, just kind of look at this. I don't even need any lines. I'm like, you have an up move, you have sideways, like what comes next in a bullish market, usually an up move. Not always, but usually. And I like the chart. And it's the same on XRP BTC, like that chart, like the daily chart. I like all of the charts, even on the XRP USD daily. I really like how this is setting up right now too. Think that just looks like it's setting up for a breakout, but I could be wrong. I was expecting this to move like a while ago, like like in May. I was like, I think time is gonna go, and then it actually went up a bunch, but went back down, and now it's back up. So we'll see if I remain correct in the thought that it's gonna go, or if I'm just wrong. And then someone asked about Solana earlier. We talked about this a while ago when it dipped into the support. Like first when it broke out here, I was like, this is an interesting spot. I like it. I don't like Solana in comparison to other things, but just if you like Solana, I liked it at that point. Ran into resistance. I got rejected there, back into support, found support. I think that's probably, as long as the rest of the market goes up, it's probably going to go up too. I just like it less. I like it less than ETH. I like it less than XRP. I like it less than a lot of other things. But it's still, if the rest goes up, if Bitcoin breaks out, if XRP breaks out, this is probably going to go up too. But like I look at the Sol BTC chart and I just don't like it that much. It is still at support, and it barely held it last month. So maybe it'll turn around. I mean, the charts are not that bad. I generally like even those charts, like a false breakdown here with a retest of the range low. That's nice. Same story here on the monthly time frame. Kind of like you had a shelf here. You had that whole FTX debacle. You had a range here. Now you're retesting this shelf. It's not that bad. Like it's a decent area to bounce from. I would just rather trade other things. And then you have a bunch of meme coins that are doing like not so well, but also not that terrible. Besides Trump. Trump's also not doing so well. Also kind of looks like it's rounding out though. Would fucking hate if that bounced. But yeah, I just generally like, I look through, and the USD pairs, they look quite decent. The Bitcoin pairs depends on where you look. Depends on what kind of coins you're trading. I think there's a few that are interesting. A bunch of the ETH stuff. Last stream I mentioned Uni. That's doing quite well. I like how that's setting up, and then you have like a bunch of the ETH stuff basically. Like, I mean, Aave's been performing excellent. Even against Bitcoin for quite a while now, while everything else been shitting the bed. So you'd expect that to maintain. And then you have like a few other things. But like when you go through the list, you see XRP doing well, you see ETH doing well, you see ETH things doing well. And that's basically it from the major coins. Keep the stream going. ETH keeps pumping. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, that's nice. It's just a good chart. I like it when it does this. I'd be majorly disappointed if this got smacked down. But I just generally think would make much more sense for the Ponzi's to Ponzi. That's my thesis for the next couple of months. Someone like Saylor started the Ponzi, and it's finally starting to establish itself. I don't know if he did that on purpose or not. It actually kind of looks like he did. And I would think that the market takes advantage of it. Therefore, I shall try my best to remain as bullish as I can. depending obviously on the evidence that the charts give me. Hey Don, what do you think the crypto market will top out this cycle? Is there potential it will extend into 2026? When do you think the crypto market will top out? As interest rates will likely be lower? I don't know. I don't know how long the whole corporate buying strategy goes. That is really, really hard to say for someone that isn't an expert in that. And I will just play it off of that. I basically think the cycle ends the moment those start having to sell. And then the cycle is just over. And whether that starts in 2026 or in 2027, I do not know. I don't think it's going to start this year unless something catastrophic happens on the macro scale. So that's kind of my view on things. Like I said, I like the charts. That, like, even some altcoin charts starting to look good. Best one is ETH and XRP. Like, those are the two best ones in my opinion. It's also my biggest bags. so I mean, take it with a grain of salt. There's a bunch of ETH stuff that looks even better than ETH. If you're more interested in that. And then there's a bunch of just stuff that gets dragged along. I would say Solana is being one of them. But I mean, you could see that turn around too. Like I said, I don't even hate the Solana chart, even though I think ETH is just so much more interesting right now. How about Altcoin? I haven't looked at it in a while. I mean, that also looks decent enough. It's not great, but it's not bad. Like, people lose their minds over like a little bit of pullback. It's not bad. That's a decent chart. I still like it as a meme. It's obviously stronger than a lot of the other meme coins. You might see rotations, like generally when you get pumps, like let's say ETH outperforms, you're probably going to see ETH coins outperform Solana coins. Let's say Solana outperforms, opposite is going to happen. Let's say XRP outperforms, like it's always the same. Like the coin that outperforms the chain most likely will too. So that's just kind of what you have to look for on the meme coin front. You just see what's hot, where people gravitate towards, and then you want to trade your meme coins on that chain. I think that's pretty straightforward. I'm not really the meme coin trader, so don't ask me for too much advice on that front. But yeah. How's your whiff pack doing? I mean, almost break even, dude. I bought a little bit below $1. And that didn't go so well for a while, and now it's basically break even again. I really want to sell that at 2 just for the lulz. Don't copy trade that though. I think whiff's just shit. I just bought it because the whiff people hated me for shorting it, and then I thought it'd be really funny to buy it. And this is a good way to torch your money. I was aware when I did it that I was likely gonna torch money. And I mean, I could have bought much better. Could have also not bought it all, put it in something actually decent, but yeah. Thoughts on Litecoin, the fact that it's been in the 7-year triangle, just like XRP was before the big pump. Yeah, I like Litecoin. But there's also a risk that this just continuously goes down forever. I mean, this is log. I mean, that's the Litecoin chart against Bitcoin. So there's a risk, like even on logarithmic chart, look at this. Quite clean how that goes, huh? Like you can draw a line through all the price action. And every time it goes too far away from it, you just sell. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate this. I might even try a breakout play if it goes into, like, I have a little bit, but if it goes into like 125, 130 again, maybe I'll try a breakout trade, like a quick 2x from 130 towards like 240. But yeah. Anyway, I think I'm gonna call it. Things are pumping, which is nice, so I want to watch that. and two, I actually need to get to bed. I've been eating nonstop and sleeping a bunch ever since I ran. So I want to continue doing both of those things. But yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Always fun to hang out. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the comments, all of that stuff. And we'll hear from each other on Friday this week. Much love. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.